Welcome to the By Design radio program. My name is Dr. James Proodian of Proodian Healthcare and ProodianHealthcare.com, where health literacy is the key to longevity. And as long as God has us on this side of eternity, my show is designed to help educate you and your families to feel better, function better, and live as many quality, disease-free years as possible. Thanks so much for joining me this week as we conclude fatigue. And I'll tell you, the last 7 to 10 days, I've probably received more emails and just casual conversations with my own patients about the last few shows than I have over the last year. So that was really exciting for me. Apparently, I've been hitting some nerves over the last couple of weeks with this program. Remember, I shared with you about 5 weeks ago when I started the fatigue, and we're going to end it today. This is the most requested seminar that I've given over the last 20 years. And we are concluding all of the foundational parts of the pyramid, from the functional medicine pyramid today with fatigue. And I waited to the end to do fatigue. Remember, we've done detoxification, epigenetics, immunity, inflammation, digestion, structural integrity, stress, and now fatigue and energy. So the 1-year program that I set out to do, I'm completing, and you can go to tandemradio.com where all of my shows are archived. I have a YouTube channel, so we have shows 1 through 54. Today is show 55, archived. So it's a real, accomplishment. I feel great that we've gotten through 55 shows and been able to do all 8 subject matters. But the last week, like I said, I think fatigue has really hit a lot of nerves out there from people who struggle with this. Remember, this is the most common thing that patients write down when they go to the doctor. I have fatigue. And we went over the 8 or so reasons that could cause fatigue. Remember Luke 1:37, for with God nothing is impossible. And today we're going to be talking, not only concluding fatigue, but let's talk about some real live case studies. These come right out of my office on people, maybe like yourself, that have been struggling with detoxification, pain, a poor immune system, inflammation, poor digestion, being overweight, being type 2 diabetic, and have done something about it with a very specific targeted plan. Not let's try grandma's recipe. No offense to grandma, but let's keep this science oriented and very focused on God's design for us from a physical, nutritional, and psychological perspective. That's the way the show was written. So last week we did Fatigue 5, which was show number 54, where we talked about nutrition, reconditioning, and mechanical and physical stress. These are all causes of fatigue. And I want to conclude today's show as we came out of mechanical, physical stress and briefly talk about what you should do with respect to seeking help from a professional. I'm going to give you about 4 or 5 things here, guys, that if you have pain, discomfort, numbness, tingling, and what I'm about to go through with you, if you have these things, this is when you should seek professional help. Don't try to do this stuff on your own. Let's start. Same or increased symptoms after 1 week. What that means is give your body 5 to 7, even 10 days to deal with some pain. You could try some rest, some ice, some heat. If so, over-the-counter medication. If the pain doesn't go away or symptoms don't go away, that's when you want to seek professional help. Radiation of symptoms. This is an important one. If you have tingling or numbness, shooting down your arms into your fingertips or down your shoulder blades or down your legs into your toes, you should seek professional help immediately for that. If you're using medication regularly to function, even over-the-counter medication like Advil, Aleve, and Tylenol, if you need that stuff day to day, because of, let's say, postural pain, lack of range of motion, things like that, again, seek help. Chronic pain, symptoms going on for years or months, you want to have someone look at that. Basically, pain that's not going away. So if we take the 8 causes of fatigue that we've gone through now, which are a disease or diseases that cause fatigue, lack of sleep or sleep disturbance is another one. Adrenal or stress, that was the whole cortisol conversation we had. Using drugs like caffeine, alcohol, and nicotine for stimulants. Gastrointestinal dysfunction, that's our GI system. We talked about that. That was our fifth one. Deconditioning, poor nutrition, and prescription medication. These were all causes of fatigue. And if you feel as though that throughout your day and throughout your week and throughout your month, you're dealing with one or multiple of these things, seek professional help. Because remember, Einstein once said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So chronic illness is something that has to be tackled straight up. It has to be done by a professional, and a very clear plan of reconditioning needs to be outlined for each patient. So in my office, Natural Healthcare Center, we are an integrated center. There's about 20 of us that work at the center. And throughout the years, from a nutritional perspective, doing hundreds of knee-to-knee consultations a year, and it's a blessing to do them. For those of you who I've met at my office, my focus is eyeball to eyeball, knee to knee, and literally taking many of these very complicated cases apart. It's funny, I'm sitting in my office right now recording this show, and just this morning, I had a woman had come in with lupus, another one had come in with Sjogren's, and I had another patient this morning with MS, and dealing with autoimmune diseases, dealing with toxification, lifestyle, type 2 diabetes, along with all of the variety of pains that they produce, along with musculoskeletal pain. Recently, Dr. Coetzee and myself, he's a PhD in clinical nutrition at my office, we've been documenting some case studies just internally. And I'll give you a couple here. If we take a look at a 45-year-old female, we monitored this gal over a period of about 12 to 16 months. She came in at 5'6" and 202 pounds. Now, the gross body weight, as you've learned from me over the years, that's measuring bone, water, air, muscle, and fat, right? It's weighing everything that we are. And to give you an example, we have a specialized scale. When she came to us, she was 38% body fat. And of that 202 pounds, 76 pounds of it was fat. Now, as we put her through a deconditioning program, proper nutrition program, this patient over a period of time, about 12 months later, weighed 170 pounds. Now, that's a 32-pound weight loss. But what was really interesting is that 30 of the 32 pounds was body fat. And I'm using that as an example because many people are losing weight, but they're not measuring the type of weight that they're losing. And I want you to be careful of that, because if you're dealing with fatigue due to obesity or type 2 diabetes and you want to get involved in the right, I hate using this word, but weight loss program, you want to make certain that whoever is doing it is measuring your bloods very carefully and measuring your biometric measurements such as body fat percentages, and then figuring out what actual weight you're losing that is made up of fat or muscle. And I want to make that point really, really clear, because us science nerds and people who are into this, into the last detail, we want to know if we're doing a cholesterol reducing program, or if we're doing lowering triglycerides, or we're improving BMI or BMR, we want to be able to measure those things. So be careful of dietary programs that are just getting on a scale and weighing yourself. You really want to put an integrated plan together if you're dealing with one of the 8 components of the pyramid of health, maybe detoxification, maybe fatigue, maybe you're stressed out, and put forth a proper program that is going to help you, like I said, with measurements of objective findings, such as blood chemistry and body fat. Next one, I'll give you a 41-year-old female. She came to us, she's 5'4", 273 pounds. 1 year later, she was 207 pounds. So she lost about 65 pounds. Once again, her fat mass went down. Now check this out, 60 pounds of fat mass that we're able to measure. her body fat went from 54% to 43%. Now, 54% obesity or 54% body fat is a very dangerous level of morbid obesity. And this is a gal that took us a few years to get her stabilized and to get her body fat under 30%. So once again, I wanted to share just a couple of case studies with you this morning about how real integrated medicine is being done out in the field. And there are some great clinicians throughout the country who are doing the work from a science perspective, and once again, in my eyes, following God's plan for us. Because God's physical plan for us from a physical, nutritional, and psychological stress perspective were that we were responsible for the way we eat, for the way we take care of our bodies. We have a calling to do that. So this is not a question of saying, oh, you're too heavy or you weigh too much and pointing fingers. This is a question of what action are we going to take as in our daily activity to improve the way our bodies are functioning. And hopefully over the shows, we've been able to do that. Now we're going to change subject matter, and we're going to move into a topic that I think coming out of fatigue, I chose to go into osteoporosis next, which is heavily misunderstood. It is a physiological process that is an epidemic in the United States of America. Even though we consume more cow's milk than any country on earth, we have a very high rate of osteoporosis. So I know I'm speaking to an educated by design audience, and you guys are trained to connect the dots, and so you should be asking yourself, I thought cow's milk was to prevent osteoporosis. Well, you might have been taught wrong, and we're going to go through the subject matter to figure out why osteoporosis is at epidemic levels and what we could do day to day to not just reverse the condition, but particularly for people under the age of 30 years old, it is critically important that we're putting money in the bank. And so when I talk about bone health, we're going to talk about the banking system. We want to put more stuff into the bank than we're taking out of the bank. Now, if Frank was coming up behind me as a financial guy, he would say under responsible wealth that it's always better to be putting more money in the bank than you're taking out. Okay, the same is true with bone health. We want to be putting money into the bank and not robbing it from our bone supply. A few things about bones. Bones are not solid structures like in the Flintstones when Dino would have that solid white bone in his mouth, right? Bone looks like cheesecloth under a microscope, and it's constantly exchanging fluids and nutrients. So we're going to take osteoporosis apart and really learn about the fact that bones give us form and rigidity, and the Lord created us with a skeletal system. And that skeletal system is not static, it's dynamic. It's constantly interchanging fluids, and it's constantly remodeling itself. And our job is to make sure that throughout our entire life that we understand that bones they do not just give us form and rigidity and protect our organs and provide us with locomotion, but bones are living tissue, and they're constantly reforming. A bone is living tissue, constantly reforming. It's not like Dino and the Flintstones. And we want to make sure that what our bones are doing, such as manufacturing red blood cells, and they store things like calcium and phosphorus and magnesium, which is critical for bone structure, bone development, and bone growth, that when we look at bone loss, which is what osteopenia and osteoporosis are, we have to ask ourselves, why is it so many women, and yes, men, are being diagnosed with osteopenia and osteoporosis long before menopause? We have to ask ourselves, what is going on in our culture to be driving epidemics of this debilitating disorder, because it can lead to hip fractures, spinal fractures, and I'll go over the incident rates, all of that with you guys. It's a very, very interesting conversation, because osteoporosis is not just thin bones. It is not simply the loss of calcium from bone. All right, it's not faulty bone or there's something wrong with your bones. It's not a disorder of just the elderly, and it is not an isolated disorder. Osteoporosis is not isolated because it's normally a downstream disorder caused by one of the many things that you've learned over the last year with me. Osteoporosis could be a downstream disorder caused by a digestive system that isn't working right, caused by stress. It could be caused by inflammation throughout your body, poor immune function, okay, toxification. So all of the things that we've been discussing on the triad of health over a period of years, 10, 20, 30 years, all of a sudden we wake up and we have bone loss. It can be a byproduct of one of those many things that we've already spoken about. Osteoporosis is thin and substandard bone. It is bone building and breakdown imbalance. Okay, so osteoporosis is the bone building and the bone breakdown imbalance. That's the bank that's taking money in and out of the bank. It is an intelligent bodily response to long-term imbalance, meaning that if your brain says, hey, we need calcium to keep the heart pumping, it's going to rob it out of the bone and send it over to the skeletal tissue. So it's an intelligent body response, the God-given bodily response to long-term imbalance. It is becoming more and more common among the young. I am seeing it on bone scan in teenage athletes, for instance, and it's a manifestation of a systemic breakdown. That means osteoporosis is a systemic breakdown of the many different pieces of the triad of health, and that's where we're going to end our show today. So I wanted to get you warmed up for osteoporosis because this disorder is one that takes place in all of the parts of the triad of health, everything that I've been teaching you, and now stay tuned over the next couple of weeks and we'll take it apart together. Guys, you've been listening to the Body Design Radio program. Thank you for joining me, Dr. James Proodian. Please go to ProodianHealthcare.com and feel free to submit any questions you might have for the show. My consultations are always at no charge at Natural Healthcare Center. And I also have a blog, drproodian.com, if you feel free to become a blog subscriber. I blog every Wednesday. God bless your week. Let's make some changes. Let's stay true to God's plan, and God bless you.